In this video, we briefly discuss the null field and the null keyword. We will introduce the concept of a null and explain how it can be used in a database field with a demonstration. The word null means that the field has no value. It doesn't mean it's empty. It doesn't mean it's blank. It doesn't mean it's zero. It means it has no value. Blank, empty, and zero are legitimate values for certain kinds of data types. A string could be empty, a string could be blank, a number could be zero. Those are all legitimate values. Null is not a value. It's a placeholder or a marker, meaning that there's nothing there. I've created a table. It's also in the slideshow. The table is called car or tcar. We use T as our prefix for tables. It has three fields. Car ID is the primary key. You can see the little key there in the design. Car is a string field, nchar or Unicode character, that can be up to 30 characters wide. It cannot be null. It cannot be omitted when you add a record to the table. The color field can be null. The allow nulls box is checked, meaning that when we add a row to this table, when we add a record to this table, we can completely omit the color. We don't have to leave it blank. We don't have to fill it in and then erase it again. We can just leave it out. Here is a set of silly data for the car table. The first few records, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, do not have a color. SQL Server puts in the special marker null, N-U-L-L, in capital letters, telling us that there is no value in that field. The next couple rows, 6, 7, and 8, have a color. Let's try to enter another row and leave the car empty, leave the car null. Referring back to the design again, you can see that car is not allowed to be null. The allow nulls box in the design is unchecked. Let's see what happens. Let's put in a color, but not a car. When I press the tab key to move to the next record, I get this error. Cannot insert null value into column car. Table dbo.tcar column does not allow nulls. Insert fails. Good. Click OK. And it refused to insert the record. The little pencil there means that you have some changes that have not yet been saved. I can put something in there. I can click down to the next record. And that record eventually gets saved. Let's try it again, but let's put something in here. And let's not put in a color. Again, the little pencil means that our data has not been saved yet. And from this last column in the grid, I can hit the tab key. That puts me down to the next record and saves row 11. We've demonstrated then that there are some fields that we can use, that we can design to be null, and there are fields that we can specify to not be null. How do you decide? One important consideration is that if a field is a natural key, it cannot be null. In this case, if we look at the keys for this table, we see that there is a key that uses the car column, and it is type unique key, meaning that it just flat cannot be null. It's impossible to have a null key. That wouldn't make sense. That's one reason when you uncheck this box, when you prevent nulls from being entered into a field. There are plenty of other design reasons. If you have a piece of information in a table that's crucial to the existence of that table, even if it's not a key field, you can unselect that box to require people to put that in. One example might be your last name. If you're entering names into a student database, names into an employee database, it would not make sense to have an employee without a last name. So we would uncheck that box for that particular field. This is a design decision that will either be handed down to you by a systems analyst, or you will have to make that decision based on domain knowledge that you're given. Either way, be sure you understand the significance of allowing a null or preventing a null in the design of a table. Having discussed the design of the table and the data that goes into the table, let's apply this knowledge. Open up a new query window, and let's just double check the database that I'm in is NIC OMP, and it can't hurt to put a use statement in there so that SSMS and SQL Server know the database that I want to refer to. And let's write a query that uses the car table. Select star from T car. Let's run that. We get what we expect, all the records. There are 9 records in the table, ID 1 all the way up to ID 11. We skipped ID 9, and I believe we skipped ID 3. Now, what if I just want cars that have a color? How do I do that? How do I say, give me the rows where the color field is filled in with something? How about where tcar.color equals something? Does that work? No, it doesn't, because we don't have a column name called something. What if I put quotes around it? Well, that kind of worked, but it's not really what we wanted because there is no color called something, and putting quotes around that value says we're looking for the field with the contents SOMETHING, which doesn't make a lot of sense for what we're after. What if I just want the colors that are null? Let's try that. We saw on the previous slide that NULL is the placeholder for a field that has no value. Does that work? Once again, I got nothing. And I know there's something there. I know that there are some colors that are null. This is probably not correct then. So what is the way to check for a null field? If you read ahead, or if you looked in the book, or if you searched Google, you may find the isNull operator. It doesn't like that either. So isNull, oh, I had it highlighted, my mistake. There we go. Now we see that we only get the records where the color is set to null, where there is no value in the color row. What if I want the colors that are present? How about not null? Select star from tcar where tcar.color is not null. There we go. It's easy then to select the rows that have a value, or select the rows that don't have a value by using a where clause and specifying is not null to get columns that have a value, or is null to get columns that don't have a value.